Now we're going to look at defining functions in SAL and how to put those functions into files, edit the files, save them, and so on using the IDE. We're going to do some work online, and you've already done some online, but for most of the class, you're going to need to learn how to use Nyquist and SAL on your local machine. So if you have not already installed Nyquist, do it now. Here's the URL, and then come back. Okay, so we're going to cover how to evaluate SAL commands, where does the output appear, how to create a file with SAL commands and function definitions, how to load the file, and we'll talk about saving your work. So to evaluate a SAL command, as we saw earlier, you type into the upper left window, which is called the Nyquist window, and when you type return, the command is evaluated. The output appears down below here in the output window. If you want to create a program file, which is normally what you do, so don't get in the habit of typing code into an editor and then cut and paste it into the Nyquist window. There are some problems with doing that. It's not, the window is not intended for file transfer. Okay, so make files and load them. So to make a file, you click the New File button. You get a blank window, and immediately you want to save that file, even though it's blank. To do that, you click the Save File button. You type in a program name with the extension .sal. All right, this is really critical. You want to use an extension .sal because that tells the editor what syntax you are using, and the editor will then be able to give you a lot of syntax help. Until you save the file with a name, the editor doesn't know if you're writing SAL programs or Lisp programs, and it cannot be very helpful. Okay, so you type your program name .sal. You can navigate to the directory you want to save in, and you click the Save button. And now you've got a blank slate in which to program. So you edit the file. Here we just wrote the command print hello world, and then you can save it. Well, actually, we're going to load it. So we go to the File menu. We select the Load item. Notice this menu is in the editor window, not the top-level application window. So we do Load, or eventually you'll just find yourself typing Command K or Control K on Windows, and that will load the file, and the output will appear in the output window. So to save your work, notice that the load menu, first of all, saves your file so that there's something to load, and then it tells Nyquist to load your file. When Nyquist loads your file, it evaluates each command in the file, including the function definitions. So file saving is really automatic. If you just type code and load it, it'll be saved wherever you told it to save the file. But there's also a file save menu item and a file save as menu item if you want to explicitly save the file without evaluating anything. Now I think we're ready to define functions in SAL. We know how to open files, edit them, load them. So let's put something in the file for SAL to process. To define a function, you write the keywords define function and the function name and the formal parameters to the function. This is very much like a number of other programming languages. And then you write the body of the function. Okay, so the body of this function is a begin-end pair, which serve as brackets around a list of statements. The statements are a print command, a display command, and a return command. So we'll look at those, at what's going on there in a second. But let's assume that we have created this function, typed it into a file, we've loaded the file, and so now we can call it. We can type, for example, print my function with the parameters C4 and middle C, the string. Okay, so let's see what happens when we execute this. First of all, we're going to execute the print statement, and it's going to print the value of P is, and what was P? Well, P was C4. C4 is a variable in Sal, which is set to the value 60. So the print statement is going to say the value of P is 60. Okay, then we get to the display command. So what's a display command? This is new. This is a very nice, I believe, I created it for Sal. It's a debugging command. So, you know, it happens all the time when you're debugging that you want to print something and then print the values of variables. And so what the display command does, well, we can see down here, first of all, it prints you give it as the first thing in a list a string to print. So it's going to print furthermore, and then it prints a colon. And then for each expression in a list, it prints the expression itself without evaluation, so that's Q, and then it prints an equal sign, and then it evaluates the expression and prints that. So this, I think, is great for debugging, because you can just say display something A comma B comma C, and then what is printed is A equals this, B equals that, C equals that. It's very convenient. So in this case, what was Q? Q was the second formal parameter. It was bound to the actual parameter, the string middle C, and so we print Q equals middle C. And then finally, where does the 72 come from down here? Well, the last statement is a return statement. It says return P plus 12. P was 60. 60 plus 12 is 72. And so the value 72 is returned by my function. Notice that when we called my function, we called it in a print statement. So the print is really printing the value 72, and that's why we see 72 down here. Okay, so I think none of this is deep, but hopefully running through a real concrete example of a Sal program is helpful for you just to get your bearings. It's a new language, some new syntax. I put a checklist over here, and I think I'm not going to belabor the point, but you might want to stop the lecture right now, run through this checklist, make sure you got all the points there, and then continue. We mentioned keyword parameters earlier, talking about how to call functions. So let's talk about how we implement keyword parameters. Keyword parameters are optional parameters that are matched by keywords rather than positions. So here's the definition of a function, keyword demo. It has one positional parameter, P, and it has two keyword parameters, which are scale and vibrato. And we know that they're keyword parameters because we have a symbol followed by a colon, that's the keyword, and then an expression after that, which is the default value for that keyword parameter, in case nothing is provided. And otherwise, we can use scale and vibrato as if they are just ordinary parameters. So here we see scale, here we see a use of vibrato in this function. And we can call keyword demo with no keyword parameters, in which case we get default values. We can call with one keyword parameter for vibrato, which notice we're skipping scale and we're just setting vibrato to true. By the way, the pound sign T is a constant meaning true in SAL. And we can even provide the keyword parameters out of order. So here we're saying vibrato is true, scale is 0.4, and that works too. We haven't talked in any detail about how begin and end work or with, so let's do that now. Begin end is what is called a compound statement. It's syntactically, it's a single statement, but it encloses multiple statements. And also, after the keyword begin, you can insert a with statement or command, which introduces local variables. So the idea is, if you want to bundle up a bunch of commands and some local variables, you write begin, you write with, and a list of local variables, which optionally can be initialized to values. If you do not initialize the value, the default value will be the value nil. We haven't talked about nil. Nil is a very interesting thing in Lisp and SAL because it denotes two different things. One is it denotes an empty list, which we'll talk about later, and it also is used to denote false. Okay, so that's a good initial value by default. And so then after the with, you can put any number of commands. Some of these commands may actually include their own begin-end block. So this is a general way of constructing nested programs.